Commissioner in Northern Ireland, Chris Quinn. Good morning, Chris. Thanks for your time today.
Morning, no problem.
How worried are you about emotionally based school avoidance?
Well, I'm very concerned. I would just like to start by saying that I really feel for Beverly, Casey and Autumn and all those other children and families who are struggling at the moment. I am hugely concerned about the continued and unprecedented high school absence rates and the devastating impact this is having on children and young people across Northern Ireland. I would say that all children have rights and all children have the right to education, and one that develops the child's personality, talents and abilities, and we need to do more to ensure that those rights are not being violated. This situation is simply not good enough. We need more from the Department for Education and the Education Authority. I'm really concerned about essential services that have been stripped back. We saw a really successful programme called Happy Healthy Minds, which was established, I think, in 2021, which gave primary school children therapeutic support and counselling support. And it was cut. In 2023, it was cut. And Brona Stars there was on earlier talking about the mental health impact. And Brona is a really well-respected and well-renowned professional in this area. And she talked about the extent. And I would agree with Brona. I mean, these numbers are alarming. We're talking about 85,000 children. That's about 3,100 classrooms that are empty regularly in our schools across the north. So my office and I, we've been concerned about this for a while, and we want to ensure that we do some research to get behind those statistics, because we're acutely aware that children and families are not getting the support they need. There's sometimes a stigma attached, so Beverly talked about that. She talked about having to leave work, and the amount of parents I meet, and the majority of time mothers, who have had to go under reduced hours or leave work to care for children who are struggling. So we want to hear the voices of those parents. We want to speak directly to children and young people and hear their views. And as Cara Hunter, I'm really glad that Cara is prioritising this, and she did reference a paper that was written by the Assembly research team, and it looks into emotionally based school avoidance and alternative provision across the world. So I know there are examples of really good practice, both locally and internationally. I've seen firsthand how when children get the support they need, they flourish. I met a child just this year whose attendance rates last year and the year before were probably around 30%. And through the right support and the right interventions and the investment in the school, that child's attendance is now up to 99, 100%.
Yeah, just with the right support.
So we can make a difference with this, and we are passionate about supporting those families. And I want those families and children to know that we hear you, we see you, and we want to work hard to make recommendations to the government to make this situation better.
Just on a final point, Chris, Beverly raised an interesting point, I thought, in her interview with Jerry, about how her children were fine in primary school, and it seemed to be the transition then to secondary school, when you are changing teachers, when you are moving classes, the sensory, I suppose, that can come with that as well, that really seemed to be the stem of what they've been experiencing. Is that something that you see in your office, or do you see this in primary school just as much as secondary school?
Look, there are so many reasons that we see behind this, and that's why we want to understand more. But in Beverly's situation, those transitions, we do see that. I mean, that change from primary school to secondary school can be a huge leap. Some children do that very seamlessly, but I've seen where that can be a real struggle. Brona Stars also mentioned the impact of COVID-19, and I would say that I saw a lot of children that struggled really badly with that transition during that period. But there are a range of issues. Okay. We hear about bullying, we hear about exam stress, we hear about transitions, and undoubtedly those children who are most disadvantaged are most acutely affected by this issue, and we need to put more support. We need to invest in early intervention. We talk a lot about early intervention, but that means supporting families and mothers and fathers and carers from the earliest stages in their lives, because we can turn this tide, but we need our decision makers to invest in the early stages of life and almost turn things around upside down, so that babies, children and families are getting support from the very earliest stages.